What if modern F1 cars had turbo lag? So, I'm sure we've all seen videos of F1 drivers in the 80s battling with cars that had huge turbos that really had significant lag and really did kick in hard and cause huge amounts of oversteer, but we don't really see that in modern F1 cars. Modern cars are turbocharged, but they don't get turbo lag because they've got complex ERS systems that basically keep the turbo spinning at all times, even when there isn't enough exhaust gases to keep the turbine spinning. Now, before we get into the mod, I just want to give a shout out to Eru Crying Lightning Man on my Discord for coming up with this idea. If you've got your own ideas for a video, make sure you join my Discord with a link in the description and let me know your ideas in the Video Ideas channel. So, I promised in a previous video that I would give you guys a bit more of a journey through creating the mods in these videos, and boy, was this mod a journey. I started out by simply copying the turbo data from the only turbocharged classic car in the F1 2020 game, the 1988 McLaren MP4-4. Interestingly, this didn't seem to make any difference to the performance of the car at all, so this mod isn't going to be as easy as I hoped. I suspect the data that I modded is either not used anymore or used for something else, like perhaps the audio, but either way, we need to go about this a different way. My next step was to actually copy over the entire engine data from the 88 McLaren to make sure this mod was even possible. This would be like literally taking the engine out of the McLaren and putting it in the modern car, but then adding ERS on. I was surprised to find out that it didn't actually feel anywhere near as difficult to control on a pad as the actual 1988 McLaren, so clearly we still had some more work to do. My next thought was that the ERS in the game could perhaps be coded to help the turbo, just like in real life, so my next step was to remove the ERS from the car. Again though, the car was still pretty easy to drive, and although there appeared to be some turbo lag, it wasn't really making the car harder to drive like I expected. It was at this point that I started to think it could be the insane amount of grip that modern F1 cars have that could be making a bigger difference than I expected. So my next step was to copy the 1988 McLaren's downforce over, which in the game code is as simple as copying 8 numbers. The downforce numbers on the modern cars are roughly double what they are in the McLaren, so that could potentially be overcoming the turbo lag that the engine now has. Although this definitely made a difference to the handling of the car and made it harder to control, I still wasn't experiencing anything like the turbo lag that this exact same engine has in the 1988 McLaren. So we've now copied over most of the main attributes of the 1988 McLaren to the modern F1 car, with one big exception: the tyres. Could the perceived lack of turbo lag really all be down to modern F1 tyres? Well, there's only one way to find out, so I copied the tyre data from the classic McLaren, and straight away, even the AI was struggling to keep it on track. Finally, we reached a level of drivability that I was expecting from driving an F1 car with turbo lag. It turns out, at least according to the F1 2020 game, that the biggest difference in drivability for the modern F1 cars isn't the turbo lag or the power curve, it's the tyres. Well, all that was left to do was to see how this car handles on a wheel. So let's get my live reaction to trying to control this weird turbo laggy beast that we've just created. Here we go then, driving what is effectively the 88 McLaren, but with a few modern bits on it really, is effectively what I'm driving here, as we eventually get out of the grass there after the AI chucked me in the grass to start the lap. Oh my word, okay, a lot of oversteer, but that was quite fun so far, because it was quite controllable. Oh, on a wheel, so as I almost spin. Can we open DRS and get away with the turbo lag? We can indeed. Up through the gears once again, need to make sure I ignore the rev limiter. So let's see how this handles compared to the McLaren. Certainly the brakes are tricky. The wheels lock very easily. Very, very easily indeed. In fact, normally I'm on 50% brake bias when I'm on the wheels. So let's try that. Opening DRS once again, braking at pretty much normal point. Yeah, it's just, you just lock the brake. The more powerful modern brakes are too good, which was something I wasn't able to pick up on the pad. Okay, let's try and go for here. Be gentle-ish. I don't know. This feels a lot better actually than the 88 McLaren so far, I will say. I don't know why that is. I suspect it's just because, you know, modern diff, the modern weight of the cars, even the steering lock. Oh my word. It certainly is quite snappy with the turbo lag, but it's perfectly controllable. I'm not spinning. Okay, I'm having a few big moments, but of course, this is my first half a lap. It's definitely, the brakes are definitely a bit good. I need to put that up again just to make sure it's the front that's the lock first. Again, I think I can get used to that. I think I can get used to that turbo lag. Just need to be a bit more cautious on the power. And I think I can get there. Again, just revving it far higher than feels normal. And going through here. Obviously struggling a little bit for the grip. See there, that was fine. Enough speed there that we were totally fine. Of course, same suspension and stuff as well as the modern Formula 1 car, so there is a few differences there. And there you go. So that was pretty much, you know, pretty good there. Let's see if we can go for these next couple of corners, driving it somewhat semi-sensibly. Bit of oversteer there, but we're not going to have a lap without any oversteer. Not with this setup, that's for sure. To kind of play with the turbo a little bit, try and make it spool up. Here we go. Open DRS, but with a bit of turbo lag. It's certainly harder to drive, but I do think it is manageable. But let's give it a go now with modern tyres and see how much easier it is. Here we go then. So exact same as last time, but with modern tyres. See the AI struggled to make the corner, but did make the corner. So that's already quite a significant difference. Going to take it relatively easy just for now. Already that felt easier. And it feels faster in a straight line, but it can't be. I think it's just coming in the lower gears. That's just me being weird. Don't need the 8th gear in this car. Okay, coming into there, certainly could take that a lot better. And I tell you what, power was easy. We actually even almost understeered off the circuit. Again, I'm gonna just try. I'm gonna go down to 50 diff. I think that'll help. But I'm gonna try 50% brake bias because I think it's the bigger rear tyres that help it with this. So remember, we've got the exact same car apart from the tyres. So the turbo leg is exactly the same, but it feels a lot better. I tell you what, it feels like we've got more downforce, although we haven't, of course. It is just tyre grip. But there must be a massive difference, at least in this game, between the 88 tyres and the modern tyres. Because this is, I'm not going to say infinitely, but it is an incredible amount easy to drive. Again, probably a little bit too rearward still on the brake bias because of the downforce setup. And look at that, that's easy. I wasn't quite full throttle, but I'm not struggling by any means. I'm going to put that back up to 54% brake bias just to help me stop rocking the wheels a little bit. I went there a little bit hot. Forgot I had old downforce, to be honest. And again, they're even over the curb. Full throttle. No problem whatsoever. Let's give it a go in the final set because that's a bit of a slower section. Again, almost braking at my normal point. The tyres, of course, are able to handle the braking force a lot better. That certainly helps with the entry. Oh, dear. Okay, this will be a good test here. No problem. That was just full throttle. So I'll tell you what. The biggest difference between the modern cars, according to this game at least, the biggest difference between the modern cars and the older cars that had loads of turbo lag is the tyres. According to this, the tyres are vastly better. I can't put a number on it because it's too complicated, but they're way better. Well, I feel like twice the amount of grip. That's what it feels like there. That was so much easier to drive. That was insane. But anyway, we will give it another go. We'll give it another go. This time we'll add back in modern downforce. We'll be on modern tyres and modern downforce. Only difference will be the engine. Right, let's give this another go then. We're going to be using modern downforce, modern tyres. So the only difference now is the engine. That is literally the only thing. We've just taken the exact engine from the 1988 McLaren, put it in the modern car. Everything else is modern and same as normal. So obviously less power in a straight line. No ERS as well, I should add. Plenty of grip. Actually, felt like a bit of oversteer through there. That may have just been me. It may have been the engine. I'm not too sure. Take another couple of corners to figure that one out. Again, revving it far higher than feels normal. Brake a bit later, of course, because we're doing less speed in the straight line. And again, feels fine. This engine that's got insane turbo lag, when in a 1988 McLaren, totally fine with modern downforce and modern tyres. This is why I struggle with the mod. Because modern downforce and modern tyres, we already know they're incredible, but this is just kind of illustrates how good they are. No turbo lag at all, that was just full throttle. No problem. No problem. We've got too much grip. Too much grip, and I tell you what, a little, probably a preview into a future video, this makes me want to do the opposite. This makes me want to do the opposite in putting the modern engine in an old car. See what happens, because modern engines handle really nicely in modern cars, but I suspect they'll handle a lot worse in a in a 1988 McLaren. But again, okay, slow speed corner here. The turbo lag, you just don't notice it. There's too much grip and not enough power. This car produces about 700 horsepower, and it's not enough to break traction in one of these cars, even when it kicks in suddenly. These cars are insane. I'm going to give it one more go. We're going to add back in ERS because that will give us an extra, 160 horsepower or whatever it is. That may shift the balance towards perhaps feeling the turbo lag more because the peak power will be more. But anyway, let's give that a go. Okay, here we go then, our final test, adding back in ERS. So again, we've got an, whoa, that was weird. We got an 88 McLaren engine, but with ERS. And other than that, it is just the normal 2020 Ferrari. Downforce, tyres, etc. All very modern. So certainly going quicker in a straight line. And that's topped up our speed nicely. Will we struggle now with the turbo lag? I mean, that last corner we didn't, but that's also quite a high speed corner. So, okay, let's try it in the lower speed stuff through here. This should make a big difference. Will we feel the turbo lag here? No. I will say, although I've added back in ERS, the ERS, of course, isn't in the game coded to actually help with the turbo. Rather than code that they just make the turbo behave a lot friendlier. So this isn't actually affecting the turbo like it would in a real Formula 1 car. You know, they use the ERS system to keep the turbo spinning up to avoid turbo lag. That's not the case now with ERS. With this current mod, there was a bit of wheel spin there, but I was on the curb, and that would have happened with a modern car as well. And again, we've got less overall power than a modern Formula 1 car, but not an excessive amount less anymore. We've got about 860 horsepower now or so, and again, through there, no problem whatsoever. 860 horsepower. Modern F1 cars, KD have about 1,000, so we have got, 140 less. There was a bit of a turbo lag there. That was turbo lag that caused that bit of oversteer, but it was no problem whatsoever. Let's see if we struggle through this final turn. The answer is no. Even with ERS providing all that torque and an extra 160 horsepower, these modern cars, they've just got too much grip. They've just got too much grip. So there we go. That was a modern F1 car with turbo lag. I say turbo lag because although there was turbo lag, it didn't seem to really make a difference, did it? The modern F1 cars just got so much grip that the extra kick of power just didn't really provide any more wheel spin. It was incredible. But anyway, as I said, I will make a future video where I'll put a modern engine in a older car to see if we actually get a lot more wheel spin. Perhaps even though we won't have turbo lag, we'll have more wheel spin just because we'll have more power, more torque in particular with the electric motor. So don't forget to subscribe to see that one at some point in the future. I'll do that one over the next couple of weeks or so. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.